morning by saying obviously we're in the pre-election period and it's heightened political sensitivities, so be aware of that when we converse during the course of the meeting. First of all, is there any apologies for absence, Wendy?
We've got Sue Summers, and just to let you know, we've got Councillor Bird online today.
Oh, yes, yeah. Morning, Councillor Bird.
Good morning. Sorry, I was on grandad duty this morning. Sometimes the combined authority you have to realise you've got a family as well.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. We've got Coventry showing its humour is usual, isn't it? Yeah. Declarations of interest, anybody, before we start? No. Okay. The minutes of the 23rd of February in front of you. Can I ask whether you accept them as a true record?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Over to Ian then on agenda item 4, which is the investment programme update, please. Ian.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
So funding available, confirmed income streams of 871 million. There's no changes there. That's the limit set by CA board, and it's fully utilised by earmarked projects. Funding commitment as of the end of February is reduced by 1.7 million to 842.6 million because of a reduction in anticipated costs for 2 Solihull projects. But that reduction is still earmarked against other Solihull projects as per the instruction of CA board. Costs incurred or the drawings are 763.9 million at the end of February. That is only slightly up from January. Since the last board meeting, CA officers have exercised delegated powers to approve 2 business cases or change requests. They're both, in this case, change requests. So one related to Solihull's HS2 parallel designs, where it's an extension for 36 months and a reduction in funding from 9.8 million to 8.1 million. The extension is required due to the continued delays in bringing forward HS2. Obviously, the works are associated very closely with that. And further, the Solihull Sustainable Energy Project, which has got an agreed extension of 18 months, there's no change to the funding limit. Projects experience delays and requires that extra time to conclude. I can move on to the dashboard when you're ready, Chair.
Yeah. Any questions before we go into the dashboard? No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the dashboard, you'll see the 84 projects as receiving funding. 39 of those have reached completion. That's an increase of 2. Dashboard records the funding against those projects together with an indication about whether those are on time and on budget. There's a red status set out against 9 projects, which is a reduction of 1. There is one of those red related projects relates to the Metro, the Wednesbury to Brierley Hill extension. So we're awaiting really the full extension addressing that. So it's likely to be extension from March 26 into summer 26 as previously reported. There are 8 red related projects for Solihull, UKC infrastructure and UKC interchange. Those projects are subject to change requests, which are lodged with the combined authority. I can take any questions on any of those.
Just a simple point. It just on the Metro Brierley Hill extension, there is not expected to be any changes to the project's capital budget as a result of the requested extension. We just confirm that will be the case.
I can raise it with TFWM, but when we go to sponsors and all of these things, and that's what we've been told in terms of running the investment programme. Certainly no change on the investment programme. Okay. I can confirm.
I can elaborate a little bit on that if you want. The reason there's no change to the budget forecast is because this period we've got a period of delay. It's more about driver training. So it's that this window is about testing and commissioning and driver training. And because there's so many drivers to train, it's a long window. That's what pretty much most of the construction is done. We're in the snagging period really. So yeah, it's testing and commissioning rather than construction. So that's what the budget
You heard, Joe.
is.
It's why we need autonomy, Joe.
Well, yes.
So do we have a date? I mean, it says summer. I mean, is there any fixed date? That you're
Yeah,
looking
not
to?
a fixed date. No,
No.
I wouldn't be
No.
able to give a fixed date right now. But
Yeah.
summer is the opening date that we're planning.
Any other questions? No. Okay, then thank you, Ian. Move on to item 5 to 7 then. That's the dashboards, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, as usual, items 5, 6 and 7 are the WMDC investment fund dashboards, which are for public information and for noting. I will provide an update under the private session.
Any questions at this point before we go? Move on. No. Okay. Thank you, Nick. On to item 8 then, which is the City Regional Sustainable Transport Settlement website.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Chair. So these, I'm bringing this report on behalf of Sandy. He sends his apologies on annual leave today. But this is the information as of the end of December, so the end of Q3 reports, excuse me. So far we've got the total approval of 1.2 billion of CRSTS funding, of which 574.9 million of expenditure has been spent up to the end of December. We're forecasting to spend a further 647.9 million to the end of March this year, excuse me, which is a further 73 million, so a 73 million pound gap from January to March effectively. And there's some big programmes that have come to an end in that period as well. The rail stations, the 5 railway stations are opening. We're obviously opening Birmingham East Side as well, so some of that expenditure will get out the door very quickly. Number of business cases and strategic outline cases have been approved, which you've got the details for in there. And the big risks that we're flagging at the moment are around, which we're in respect to our local authority partners as well, around budget risks and schedule risks and operational risks. And we know, obviously, with the conflict in the Middle East at the moment as well, we're tracking the price of oil and understanding what that does to project budgets as well, which is an important thing to factor in. In terms of spending, we've got an element of over programming built in, as you are aware, but we are in a position with DFT where all funding, we're forecasting that all funding will be contractually committed by March 2027. That allows us to carry on with delivery post March 27 as well. I think that covers everything. There's some data in the graphs that you can see. I've got the colour copy on here, but you can see how the spending is forecast as well over the coming years as we run up to March 2027.
Any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we move then on to the Cross City Package 6 West 4 business case.
So they were going to come down.
Martin Pine or Shah Rahim?
Yeah,
No.
the Martin and Shah are on their way down. They should be with you very soon.
We're cool, Joe.
We can't move on either.
Did you miss? He's only
Probably.
Apologies for this.
So, yeah.
When do you, yeah, who's it? Yeah,
There is one in there.
we have got investment board in April. haven't we? Yes, we do.
Scheduled, but as I was saying earlier, we don't have any substantive business currently, so I don't know whether we'll need a meeting.
We might be sat outside.
Well, just to cover that off then, can I raise an item of business while we're waiting?
Yeah,
Right, can I
of course, yeah.
raise this for the boys? We're in sort of waiting period here. If there isn't an investment board in April, which is highly likely from the sound of the investment panel doesn't have any substantive items of business, and there's no point calling you in just to do dashboards. The one item that needs to be raised is what would happen in terms of urgent decisions that need to be made when the board isn't in session as usual. So in April, that would usually be presented as the paper that says we're happy to delegate to chief exec in conjunction with consultation with the chair would be the usual wording. We can circulate that to the board, or you might make a decision you that as usual in that period, in the election period, those decisions can be made. Would you like it circulated? Would you like to? How would you like to deal with it?
It's fairly standard procedure. We've
It
done
is
that
standard.
every year before.
Yeah.
So
Will there be anything urgent, or can it be deferred till May?
we don't know. That's the issue really. Is where there's anything crops up that needs to be dealt with, it has to be delegated.
Right.
That's the issue.
I suspect what, until we know, but I'm with Bob really, unless one of us says, bloody hell, this needs a big row, like last month.
It's a
You know what I
standard,
mean?
yeah,
So-
Councillor Boyd, it's a standard
So I might
governance
just think he's
thing.
in just for the hell of it, you know what I mean?
I tell you what, I tell,
Now,
Give me the side eye there.
now applying to the galleries, either you become in the media still, aren't you?
well, if the board doesn't go ahead, then what I'd suggest is we circulate the paper. If there's no comment back within a week or so, then we'll take it as it's agreed. If there's any strong objections,
Fair
then
enough.
please come back. Yeah,
You happy with that?
Yeah.
Silent acquiescence.
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shah Rahim, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. To item 9 then.
Like a huge condom.
City package 6 West 4 business case. Ready?
So just join the call. And I'll share my screen. I'll put just a bit of presentation together. Morning all.
It's on the.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. See you, Tom. Thank you,
That's an
Tom.
end here.
That looks sort of slightly.
It does, doesn't it? You get them in hill fields a lot.
Morning all. Thank you for your time. So this is package 6 of Crossy of a wider bus priority programme. So this covers, we're seeking approval of the full business case to deliver the construction. Also approval to delegate to Director of Delivery for Transport, the authority to enter into legal agreements and then overall project budget for delivery of the scheme. So this particular package, 6 West, this covers the Soho Road, Holyhead Road route. So from West Bromwich Albion, West Brom to Birmingham City Centre. The key point of the purpose of the scheme is to provide better bus journey time and reliability. So this is with along this Route 74 service that runs from West Brom to the city centre. In terms of the overall purpose is to encourage more people to use sustainable transport. So that's what we're trying to achieve with the enhancements that we're proposing along this corridor. Key objectives are accessibility, making it easier for residents to reach their services, to eventually get to other key destinations. So along this corridor, there are a few schools. So we got the King Edward's Grammar School. That's the Guilds on one end of the corridor. And we also have the Handsworth Grammar School, which is near off Grove Lane as well. There are places of worship, there are house centres, there are other schools, Holyhead School, that I attended when I was a teenager. So this is a corridor that's very close to my heart. In terms of other elements of passenger satisfaction, so along this corridor, there are bus shelters that are nearing end of life service. So this scheme looks to enhance, improve, upgrade those services. So get a better feel, better product for our residents. In terms of journey time mentioned already, so in terms of reduced service reliability. So this is in intention with providing build out. So there's a history, unfortunate history of very poor parking along this corridor. So the enhancement that we look to introduce should mitigate the delay that causes. And the mode shift. And again, ultimately, we want to get people from their cars onto public transport, and that's a key objective of this scheme. Next slide, please. So in terms of a bit more detail on the benefits, so we're reducing the average journey time from 10 to 15%. This is with the enhancements that we're looking to introduce. Journey time, improve passenger experience, reduce emissions from quicker bus journey route, reduce the number of collisions. So by reducing congestion, we expect to see reduced congestion and reduced conflict. Modal shift, mentioned already, just to get people away from their private vehicles to the bus use. Improved accessibility, so part of these schemes are we're looking to upgrade several crossing points, several uncontrolled, those signal controlled, those who are not, so it just makes it easier for people to get across what is a very busy route. Improved physical activity, so again, enhanced connectivity to encourage walking, active travel. Output, so I guess the key output is how we're going to achieve the points above. So we're looking to introduce a new bus lane. So this is a bus lane both towards the centre and away. So that's 2.3 kilometres worth of new bus lanes that we're looking to introduce. There is also a new bus gate that we'll introduce near Island Road. And again, this is just to give better priority for buses to get through a hotspot. Junction improvements mentioned in terms of just getting people to navigate a junction more safely. Enhanced stops, bus lane enforcement cameras. There'll be pedestrian improvement in the build out, signal upgrades within West Brom. This particular corridor does run within Thamwell as well, so there is improvement within Alfred Lane Junction just outside the Albion ground, and then there are also a few bus stops, so we'll also look to improve. So this corridor does cover across both BCC boundary and slightly within Thamwell boundary as well. Tom, next slide, please. So we're also looking at this in terms of the wider network enhancements that we're proposing as part of the wider bus priority programme. So this scheme integrates with Package 6 East, which is currently progressing through delivery, slightly just to the rear of 6 West in terms of where we are into the programme. The route itself does primarily benefit the 74 service, but there will be some indirect benefit to other services, so the 11A, 11C and 16s. So this is just where we have the enhanced stops for better interchange services. One thing we just want to note is the franchising that's planned, that's coming up. There'll be great control provided by the franchising to enable us, WMCA and our authority partners to maximise the benefits of this scheme, whilst also taking a more integrated approach to the wider sustainable transport network. Tom, next slide, please. And then in terms of a bit of detail into the option, so we did look at 4 options. So one option was just leave it as it is, no intervention. The third option was a bit of a balance between the less ambitious and the more ambitious. The less ambitious was just keeping it quite specific to just bus stops. The more ambitious was just greater interventions. So this was a nice balance, and it gave us the best BCR, which was relatively 1.4. So this was a happy medium. In terms of consultation, so we did a lot of work in terms of consultation. So we had a public consultation last year, September to December. 72% of the respondents were in favour of the scheme. We have continued to engage with key stakeholders since. So we have been working with the whole bid, with BCA colleagues. I think we feel now we have the final scheme that we have takes on board all the input that we received from key stakeholders along the corridor to reach where we are at the moment. Next slide, please, Tom. A bit of a summary of the financial case. So the programme business case for this programme was 4 packages. This was approved back in November 2022, sorry, which was subsequently reduced following a rebaselining and approved by WTA board. The cross funding is time bound to be committed spend by March 2027. The approved funding level has been redistributed to 6 West, given the sort of delivery maturity and the certainty around hitting the trust spend commitment by March 2027. There is some further details there, but what this case seeks to improve is 13 point, just slightly more than 30 million to deliver the construction side of where we are. The design is pretty much complete. It's now getting ready to be on site. In terms of immediate next steps, so we are seeking BCC's FBC approval. So that process has commenced. However, that will be approved after the local elections. That's further started. Pre-election started last Friday. That will then trigger the TRO consultation. The groundworks have already started. We'll enter a legal agreement with BCC. Continue working with the contractor to get site ready, subject to the points above. There will be an element of early delivery once the FBC approved our shelters. And then finally, works with Sanwa will be delivered by Sanwa so that we via their own supply chain. We are just preparing the design in agreement with themselves. I think is that the last slide, Tom? Yeah, that was the last slide. But yes, thank you.
Councillor Bond.
Perfectly good scheme. I've no issue with this. Two obvious points, though, I just want to ask. One is, I see that the works are going to be delivered by TFWM, the Birmingham bit, but the Sandwell bit is going to be delivered separately. So how's that going to work? And then the second question is, and this is the more important point, you mentioned earlier on that there's a lot of problems with errant parking down this corridor, which is very noticeable in lots of parts of the region. It's not unusual to hear. It's very difficult to control it and enforce it. So is it physical works that's going to prevent that from happening, or will that still be able to happen? So corridors in Coventry, bus stops are regularly used for parking and no enforcement takes place, which is irritating, to put it mildly. So it's got to come with that enforcement as well. And who would oversee that?
So in terms of sorry, can I answer?
And that, we'll have an officer answer and then the
Thanks, yeah.
answer.
First, I need to declare an interest as well, because I used to get 74 to school. I used to attend Handsworth Grammar School, so I know the corridor quite well.
Less than that, though, yeah.
5 years. I welcome the scheme. Obviously, it's a new bus corridor in the region, and just taking on board some of Jim's comments. Two things on this. We are working with the Soho bid already, trying to find them. We have got a car park there, but we want to expand it and extend it. So we've got some funding that's going to be coming through City Council. We are having a robust conversation with them. You mentioned you speak to Soho bid, but obviously you're aware there's two schools you've mentioned, both the two King Edward Handsworth schools, the girls and the boys, just off the Soho Road. You've also got the Handsworth College there as well, a couple of health centres. And Nishcam, the Gurdwara is probably one of the largest in the city, if not the country as well. And they've also got a plethora of nurseries and schools on Soho Road as well. So you've got quite a lot of people that would be very attracted to this bus scheme if it works. But Jim's points are valid because we've had that conversation around the car park. There is a car park there, but they are looking for more space even before the bus corridor comes in, because so it's just a local centre for Birmingham, it's a local centre for the country. You get people coming from everywhere just to come to shop on Soho Road because they've got specialist jewellery shops there. They've had a recent one just opened by one of the Bollywood actresses as well. So it's like some, people come from Canada even to shop there. So it's something that we do need to push. The other thing I was going to say is there's 20 million was announced, so it wouldn't be in the papers here, for Pride in Place for Handsworth West, which is just off the Soho Road as well. So you'll need to have a conversation with whoever manages that Pride in Place. I'm not even sure how it works because we never got anything in my ward, but we need to have a conversation with them. And also in the budget, so I can announce this because it's not breaching purdah, it's already been made the decision in council that we are going to allocate 150,000 to every councillor in Birmingham in the new financial year. It's called a Safe and Active Neighbourhood Fund, which means active travel, road safety measures. But again, you need to have a conversation with them as well, because what I don't want to see is duplication of schemes. That if you're all going together at the same time, the same as Jim's point in terms of Sandwell and Birmingham, so that we minimise disruption to the residents and the businesses there. The other thing I want to say was one of the issues that's always flagged to me, and I was really pleased when I read this report, is about safety, both on buses and also on bus stops. And in 2.3 of the report, you've said 15 bus stops will get CCTV coverage. I think that's fantastic. I think that you've set a blueprint for other corridors now. So I'll be arguing this now going forward. But will the CCTV, will it be on the bus stop itself because that's open to vandalism, or will it be on a street column next to the bus stop? And obviously, I'm assuming you'll be having conversations with West Midlands Police and with the council so that you've got the data in terms of where that should go to as well in terms of that funding. The final thing I want to say is there's also a £5 million Thrive and Neighbourhood Fund that's come to the City Council through some of our CAS revenue, and that will go to all local centres outside of the city centre. So again, Soho Road, because of the bid, they could be one of the beneficiaries. Again, I want to make sure all the money is being used like at the same time to minimise disruption for all the residents there. And the final point, which Jim has flagged up around the enforcement, we've got a mobile enforcement vehicle now which goes around the city and flagging cars who are on bus stops, red routes, keep clear signage. So with that car in mind, in Sparkbrook, over the space of 10 days, there's 1,286 tickets issued. The same would happen on Soho Road if you went down. So what you need to is have a conversation with highways to make sure we've got the keep clear signs appropriate, the bus lanes. And I've always said, and to my colleagues in combined, I will only ever agree to bus lanes from, I think a year ago, I decided as long as the bus lane enforcement comes, there's no point having a bus lane if there's not bus lane enforcement, because people just ignore it.
Yeah.
I'm being honest, just around Birmingham, I'm not sure if it's the same around other parts of the Western Command. Birmingham, I've made it abundantly clear, I'll only agree a bus lane if there's a bus lane enforcement going at the same time as the bus lane.
Before I bring you in, could I ask who would carry out that enforcement? I would imagine it would be Birmingham, wouldn't it?
Council does it?
So,
And we keep the revenue as well.
so you're making, I'm going to say, you're making that point. Will you be making sure that it's actually introduced?
I think Soho Road is included. So we have, they do something with the data systems they've got on the vehicle, but Soho Road is one of them that's flagged as to be included in. And the vision is, again, don't want to breach Purdah, but I've already said this, to have 10 vehicles as opposed to the one. So we have one in every constituency. So that would be the Perry Bar constituency. And Wolverhampton does it as well. They've got some mobile enforcement vehicles and they work brilliantly because you have less risk to traffic wardens walking up and down, and the cars can cover a lot more sort of like area than you would ordinarily with 2 traffic wardens walking up and down.
If you've got cameras as well, then.
You've got cameras as well.
How's it Slay?
Yeah, I mean, as a daily bus user, I'm all for improving the bus network, quite frankly. I just wanted to raise a point. It's in paragraph 2.5, and it's the ambitions for the scheme. In essence, 2 minutes journey time improvement, 5% increase in bus patronage, and a 2% increase in bus passenger satisfaction. I just wanted to just understand, how does that compare with other schemes? But it doesn't seem very ambitious to me. A 2 minute improvements in bus journey times. I don't know how you actually measure that, because the buses I use, there are data within the bus shelter as to when they're expected, but to be quite frank, they're not GPS and they don't always turn up on the time. So it's those sort of things that I need, how are you going to deliver these outcomes that you're actually proposing, and how are you going to measure them? I think that's really the question that I have.
You have an answer?
Go down now.
Hi everyone, apologies. Yeah, I'm happy to take this one. Yeah, so in terms of the kind of monitoring of the scheme and the outcomes, we do monitor the whole fleet. We do have a big data set in terms of vehicles that are not all of them GPS tracked, but the majority of them are, and we can monitor that over time. So there's a monitoring and evaluation plan that goes with this scheme that sets out the monitoring and evaluation arrangements. I think it's also worth noting on this scheme that while the business case sets out the core level of benefits, we would hope that we'd be able to deliver more than that in the lifetime of the programme. So we're, as I hope Shah alluded to earlier, clearing the stops for future possible introduction of twin door vehicles that would enable us to deliver further benefits in terms of dwell time reduction at stops, so faster boarding and alighting at stops along the corridor. Yeah, journey time reliability is the other key factor here, where although the kind of headline benefits of journey time savings are quite small, we would expect those to be bigger during times of delay and congestion, because obviously we're providing the bus lanes to manage that better. So while the average is relatively small, the benefits really accrue to the worst journey times, which we would expect to improve more significantly.
Can I just come back on I mean, I support Councillor Majid Mahmood's point with regard to bus lane monitoring. I mean, we have bus lane monitoring in part of Solihull and it's very effective. Very few people actually enter the bus lane because they know they're going to be monitored and they're going to be fined. So I'm really up for that because I think it does massively improve journey time. So I fully support that going forward and hope that the whole route could be monitored in that way. Although you always get pinch points where the motorist actually enters the end of the bus lane and then that does further cause congestion. But no, I'm happy with the scheme. It's just that I felt the ambitions were a bit slightly less ambitious than I would have hoped. Really, 2 minutes improvements in bus journey time isn't a great deal on all of the A41 route that goes through Soho and Sandwell. So, but hopefully it delivers.
Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not convinced, I have to say. I like Mahmood. I went to school in Handsworth, probably a little after him. But this is a notorious area for people double parking, triple parking, and goodness knows what. It's a lot of money as Bob said, you know, a couple of minutes. But I think we're putting the chicken before the egg here. Is there not something we can do to make sure the enforcement works before we spend all this money on a bus lane?
I can provide a bit of an update on that. So a part of the scheme development, so working with highway officers at BCC to make it as enforceable as possible. So right now, Soho Road lacks adequate signage, so you can't at this stage enforce. So part of this scheme, we are looking to introduce and make it compliant with the guidance, with the statutory guidance, so that when BCC colleagues do come and enforce, they have that robust infrastructure around it to be able to do so. And in terms of, I guess, there are other elements the way we're going to ensure that the bus operation isn't affected. We are putting bus stops on build-out, so right now they're at the curb line. If people park either side, it makes it difficult to bus again. We are putting the bus stops on build-out at particular points. If they do park inconsiderably, it doesn't have the same impact as it would have at this moment because the buses are online on the carriageway.
Could
So
this,
in indirect and direct ways, we're trying to mitigate this unfortunately large issue.
And that's the point, Chair. I mean, enforcement is absolutely critical in some of these bottleneck areas. You know, I mean, Councillor Mahmood has mentioned others, but you know, that's the key issue. Otherwise, your bus just doesn't get the 2 minutes benefit that you're looking for.
could this be red routed or is it already red routed?
It's not red routed at the moment, except for a part of within Sandwell. In terms of it being red routed, I
mean, to my mind, I actually had to drive through Soho Road yesterday for coming back from the city hospital, and yes, it was Eid, but for God's sake, there was parking completely along right the way through. So you were limited to one lane, which is what this is going to do, isn't it? It's going to force people into one lane. So do you think it's going to increase journey time for people in cars? Do you think it's going to force them out of the cars and onto the bus? I mean, it's really like a funnel, isn't it?
It is.
You know.
But this is the debate I've been having with officers in transport and highways. Is there's local centres across Birmingham, which are no longer local centres. Local centres used to be traditional people shopping who live in the locality. Places like Soho attract people from outside of the city, and lots of people from outside of the city. Places as far as like London and Bradford and places, people will come to shop because there's specialist jewellers there, specialist clothing shops there for your weddings, you know, religious festivals. People come there to shop. They need somewhere to park, and even if you're local, you still want somewhere to park so that you can take the goods you into the car as opposed to dragging them on the bus. So that's why we've got this new 5 million Thrive Enabled Fund to basically try to support the local centres in terms of having their safer, more road safety there and more safer active travel in those places. One of the key schemes is, because we've had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, as around increasing the car parking capacity for Soho Road. And I said we can do that, but we need to still take people off the road into one of these car parks. Like City Centre here, you've got loads of car parking. People can bring in the car, but obviously we're encouraging people to use the buses where they can. But there'll still be instances where people want to bring the car up for schools, colleges on Soho Road, we would want them to use the bus as opposed to coming by car. And if you can have that mode shift from those people who be going to school and college there, then you've won half of the argument, because half of the people should be coming off.
Do you feel that there's sufficient parking provision in that stretch?
I don't think there is yet. I think we need to manage it. But for example, we've got a car park just off Soho Road, which you have to pay to use, and it's quite a large car park. It's about 50 spaces. But on the road next to it, you can just park without paying anything. That doesn't really make sense, does it? Because you're trying to encourage people to use the car park, but instead they're just blocking the road because it's a cul-de-sac. So that's one of the schemes that we're looking at. Obviously, we're in Purdy, so I can't say too much. I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, it does need a full sort of transport assessment with a view to parking.
That's why we need to have
Identifying land for possibly in the area off of the main road to facilitate parking, isn't it? Yeah, I think this has got to be done. I agree with Councillor Bird that this needs to be done alongside this, else it's not going to work at all, or the expectations of it are not going to be provided. You know, it will be pie in the sky, I think. Yeah.
I just I'm mindful of the Councillor Bird.
Sorry, Councillor Bird. Yeah. Margaret.
Actually, Chairman, you've confirmed the point. I think Councillor Mahmood, unfortunately, he's arguing against this in many ways. I know he supported it, but the mere fact, as he says, people come from all over the place, London, everywhere. They come by car. They're going to get on the bus. They're taking very expensive jewellery. I mean, Indian jewellery, as we all know, is 24 carat. They're going to walk across the road to the car park. No, I don't think so. And I think we have to be careful of this, in as much that I'm sure Martin Pye might have some answers, but the enforcement is important. And sadly, enforcement never comes at the right time and never in the strength of enforcement that you require. I know it's here again, drive the car off the road, which is what we tend to do with our transport schemes. But I'm not going to oppose this, but I'm not going to support it. And I'll have my name recorded against it if the situation is that we go ahead with it.
Martin.
Yeah, I was just going to say the basic. I guess it's a challenging area, Soho Road, as we all know. Lots of different usage of that corridor to manage and try and get the best for the local residents and the city really. So the basic premise of the scheme is to provide bus lanes on approach to Soho Road Centre, and then look to manage the flow of buses and everyone else through the centre. So just look to build out bus stops to enable passengers to board without having to walk between parked cars, to facilitate and make parking more parking provision clearer, and the rules more enforceable through that central section, to upgrade traffic signals throughout there to enable them to be coordinated better and work better through that central section, and to manage the flow of traffic along the corridor as effectively as we can. We understand the challenges, and absolutely welcome anything else we can do alongside that to to support better management of parking in that area. That's the general premise of the scheme, and we think that we're bringing investment to this area. We're also tackling some of the key challenges around antisocial behaviour and bus stops along here by looking to rotate those shelters, which enables us to look at future introduction of twin door vehicles, but also provides more visibility and natural surveillance for those shelters from the carriageway, which the police are supportive of, and potentially provide CCTV in those shelters as well for public safety and benefits of the travelling public. So there's a lot of things to commend this scheme, in my view, beyond the kind of the journey time savings that we expect it to deliver, and as noted, they are relatively modest on the basis that we know it's a challenging section to deliver those benefits in.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add on Charlotte's behalf, really, as well, that it's important that we see this as a package of measures, because obviously this is wider than the Soho Road Cross City piece. This is about all of the Cross City bus proposals that we're looking at, and the connectivity piece for across the West Midlands, and how those wider journey time benefits can be seen as well. But also thinking about how we need to take an action, I think, to work really closely with BCC officers on this, because this is almost like a place-based approach. So we need a proper place-based approach, not just a saying it place-based approach, but we can take a place-based approach with this, look at how we're improving safety, look at how we can work with high-rise officers, with some of the funding that councillors mentioned earlier, to try and make sure that it is really aligned and that everybody is consulted with amongst the whole thing as well, not just about the bus works, but everything that we can do together to look at how we can deliver things more efficiently potentially, or how we can have the right outcomes and outputs for everything, not just bus timings, but safer places, safer streets, etc. So
before I bring Councillor O'Bourne, I think the problem with this report is that it hadn't taken that holistic view in mind, and it might have been a better report, if you don't mind me saying, if it had taken into view that the other issues that relate to the problems that we've mentioned this morning, the parking provision. In fact, obviously, there's been some liaison between Transport West Midlands and Birmingham and Sandwell Highways officers, but it's not been with the wider context in mind, the parking problems. So effectively, we're pulling this out at this point, and it should have been pulled out back previously, and it should have been aligned to possible funding streams that might come on board. In fact, there should be a priority put to the local councillors that will be part of the process, and the MPs, in relation to pride in place and what have you, that this is a priority issue going forward. So I'm not saying that this report shouldn't go through, but I think in future, when you've got such major issues, there needs to be factored in. Okay, Councillor O'Bourne.
That was why I raised it, because Majid's made the very point. I mean, I'd have a recommendation here, because again, at the risk of sort of going back over the same old ground again, this is a classic case of, you know, officers are cracking on with a perfectly good scheme, but what they haven't done is they haven't engaged with the political leadership of the respective areas, and there's no input into that until this morning when we have this conversation. And it's far too late. And you know, the Rosewell Review would say this is a very good scheme based on its, you know, business case ratio and blah and all the rest of it, but actually it hasn't done the hard yards of actually understanding on the ground. That's the problem. And it really is time this organisation understood that, because you're going to have this time and time again. And I always feel uneasy about, you know, supporting reports that are half-baked. And that's not to say this is half-baked, but you see what I mean? All the problems have been raised. I'll just raise them quite innocently about, you know, because these are the sort of things that come up in local areas all the time. Yeah. And I've heard about this road, particularly, the problems with it. So the recommendation would be, I'm amazed actually the Stob group, you know, are not fully on board with this and understand this. And I would expect that recommendation that prior to implementation, full agreement with the respective, you know, relevant cabinet members and bringing all those different partners together should be agreed prior to any implementation. Because that should be a recommendation coming from this group at the very least.
You see, I was aware of it from a Sandwell point of view, but in respect to the impact on Sandwell, it's much less in terms. I mean, the Soho Road is a major issue. You get into Sandwell, yes, we have some problems as you come past the author ones, but it's less of a problem than you find in Soho Road. And as you say, it's already red routed, so part of the problem's gone there. Sorry. Yeah.
Comment, Chair, is that?
Yeah.
So just to respond to your comments there, Jim, as well. There's two things. Obviously, we have consulted extensively with local residents. So we did do a consultation. There has been loads of conversations with local councillors and MPs from a BCC perspective, obviously, not from a wider perspective, but stock officers are aware of Cross City and this this programme of works as well. Just as part of the recommendations, there is a board report coming. So number 4 on the report, there's a board report coming to the CA board this summer, which looks at the whole of the Cross City bus programme. So I suggest what's done prior to that, by yourself or whoever shall, is that we're making sure that this team is briefed, this team of councillors and cabinet members is briefed fully prior to that, if that's a recommendation.
I think that needs to be added to section 4, but also I think it needs to include the direct liaison with particularly Birmingham transport officers in relation to addressing the wider problems and seeking appropriate funding.
Absolutely, those meetings happen all the time.
Okay.
Every week, yeah.
All the time.
But I'm talking about pulling these things.
For £20 million, because that's something new that was only announced last week. That there's no point them having, I think it's £2 million a year they can spend. Spending that money, which may like introduce a scheme onto Soho Road, which we're not aware of, and you're doing the bus corridor and they want to do something. So you've got contractors going in and then coming back again 6 months later to do something similar, and tying with the local funding we've got from Birmingham as well. The car park, an expanded car park would be brilliant. People listen.
Yeah, I just to try and wrap this up a bit, because I obviously I've heard what you said about involvement of politicians and officers from the local authorities before. I think from the sound of what Joe is saying, that actually happens. What's not being done to give the board satisfaction that this is being considered is the reference in the reports, isn't it? I think that's the main bit. You might derive a lot more comfort if we're specifically flagging that Birmingham officers have considered this. This is what they're thinking. Sandwell officers, because they're the relevant ones, and also the relevant politicians, take Councillor O'Boyle's point, have actually, it's been flagged to them and they've had opportunity for comment and consideration.
I just think political ownership of things like this need to happen at this level, and it doesn't, and that's a big problem with governance in this local area. Because if it was me, you know, I would hate to think that a report with my name on it would come to an organisation like this, and then, you know, the relevant cabinet member in Birmingham or in Sandwell would raise all these issues. You know, I wouldn't have done my job properly. That's the whole point about it, and that's what I find there's a missing thread in all of this. That's the issue for me.
Yeah, I don't know the detail, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's been missed. But kind of what is missed is we're not overtly flagging it within the report about who's considered, and I think that's a learning point that we need to take on these schemes.
I think that's the point, because it's the point that Councillor Ball makes. It's the overall governance of some of these arrangements, which are not clear from the report that we actually see. I mean, all the stuff you said subsequently and the stuff that Councillor Mahmood has given me a reassurance, I would say, that this stuff has been done, but the report itself doesn't actually bring that out. I think that's where the problem lies.
Yeah,
so the question is, who's brought this forward and what's the political buy-in that we've had to actually support it going forward? Its ambitions are fine, although I think are very modest, I might say. I mean, what improves bus patronage, quite frankly, is, you know, improved frequency, you know, journey time cuts and those sort of things. And that's really what makes people go on buses. So I do think there's a trick to be learnt in this, that the report itself should demonstrate that those elements have been considered by the STAG or whoever it may be, by the cabinet member, and actually some of the nuts and bolts in this have been thought through before it comes for approval by this board. I think it's a general lesson that just needs to be learned, frankly.
So we have the recommendations on page 57. Do we feel that those need to be altered or reworded in any way?
Well, from the perspective of what Councillor O'Boyle said, just to have that extra level of assurance that these things have been considered.
Yeah.
The report stands alone in itself, but what's the context within it that's been discussed elsewhere? That's what I would.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're hung out to dry in some regards.
I think what we'll do is capture that in the minutes rather than changing the recommendations. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You happy to approve the recommendations as read on page 57 then? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Agenda item 10, which is now the exclusion of the public and press in accordance with section 1 of the Local Government Act 1972. The public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, as they are likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as specified in the paragraphs of the Act. So that